Welcome back to Happy Chape. So this is vibration from a witness of death. So we see death every day surrounding us and placing us in a placement of fear consciously. And so while we see it around us happening all the time, we walk in life fearing it, running away from it. And while we see somebody that we treasure in our heart, in our memory of how we've lived, in our history of memories of them loved ones that we treasure within who we are, we start to see when they come to that ending a sense of fear, pain. And we reflect it back at them that we see. It's in who they are being. But we forget to see who we be in how we are seeing who they be. That it's us that fears their end in what we see. Because we've captured so much memory in who we be. We've become familiar with them that we see. And so when we see them leaving in who they be from what we see and from what we've known them to be, we see it as a loss in who we be. But we reflect everything onto them that we see as they went through the pain, the fear. They lost their life in how we see. Well, what was happening was we lost a life that gave us memory in who we be. And now that that life is taking away from what we see, there's a part of us lost in who we be. And so when we see that fear and pain and the dying, it's a part of who we be and how we are seeing it as a loss to who we be. Not who the dying is, but who we are. So if we looked at who we are being and started to think different in how we are seeing, we could start to see that they who are dying, we should be thankful of what they brought to thee. In the memories that we have to see. And that they're being set free in their consciousness of that vessel in who they be. And when they're set free, we look at them as dying and there's nothing more to be. While their consciousness has never all been the body, but the vibration that flew through the body. So we could see that vibration in a physical reality to give us attachment to that person that we see. And so when they're gone, we feel a loss in who we be. Instead of celebrating them that we had to see. And so we carry around that fear and pain of what we see. Instead of thinking about how we are being by what we are seeing. And who are we focusing on really when we are focusing on they that we seen and who we be? Is it ourselves we are watching outside of who we be and reflecting the fear and pain that we feel onto they who have gone, who we once seen? And when we look back within ourselves, we can see that it's us who are still living in this physical vessel who feels to the transformation of the consciousness being set free from the body that we call death in its ending. Yet that soul has been set free in consciousness, not trapped by the vessel that we be, that feels to all that it sees. And so this is something I've looked at in my own life. Always having a fear of death. And while I always had a fear of death, I was always trying to create my death, to escape from this physical form, to go back to consciousness. But when I reflected back on why and who I was and to die, what would that be like? I started to see. I started to see who I was and the truth of all there is to see, and the truth of who I am in my consciousness, and not just the body that you can see. That I was a vibration that flowed through this vessel that you see. And when this vessel would die, that consciousness would keep moving in reality. And so what I realized, what I feared for, was all the people that I seen, the people that I felt for, that I loved, that I cared for. I feared that they would hurt if I was to die. And I reflected back at me, well, what if I did die? And I started to see it's only how I was seeing it and who they would be. But as time would pass on, I would start to see if I died, they would be fine in who they be. They would move on in their life, in what they would see. And that I would be set free in my consciousness, away from what you see and who I be. And what they would feel in pain in that moment of death would be something they would see in who they be, because they would soon forget about me and move on in life and how they see. Forgetting about the consciousness that bees within each and every one of who they be. And until they could come to see that and who they be, they would be trapped in that vessel, just like me. But when I was able to reflect on my death and bring it upon my reality and how I would see, I started to see that I was no more important than anything that there is to see. Yet I was never unimportant, any more less than anything that there is to see. That this was only a part of moving in consciousness, so the consciousness could feel what it's like to live in a physical reality. And in that physical reality, we could learn to see that the body is something that gets attached to separation from what it sees. And the journey is to realize it's not in separation. It's part of who you be, all that you see. And whatever way you feel, that's what you will see. And so your consciousness will collapse it into your reality in how you see. And so if you see it as fear and pain, that's what you will be. That fear and pain in what you see in another's death. It becomes you. And so when I reflect back at my own death and see it in the reality of all, it would be a space and time that would be forgotten, as all that I would see would move forward in who they be. As I would move in my own reality of consciousness away from something that they could see. And so I would go back to a place of the unseen by they who see the physical reality. But miss to see the unseen creates their seen to be seen in a physical reality. And so this brought me to a place of wanting to hold my own funeral while I had friends and family around me. Now today, I find I'm on my own path, my own truth. And because they who were once my friends and family don't see the same path as I see, I walk alone with everything, happy in who I be. And so what I was going to do when I had this place meant within all I see as separation in who I be, yet understanding I was a part of all that I seen. I was going to have a funeral to see how other vessels would be, that they would have to come and celebrate my death in what they're seen as a physical reality. And I would set a microphone up for them to speak about me. But they would have to speak their truth. Good, bad, however they've seen it, however they've seen me to be, they would have to speak their truth. And there was nothing that I could say or do against their truth. It was my way of accepting what they've seen. And so what I seen in how I visualized my way of being in this happening was that they would tell the truth, and if there was something that I didn't like to see come from another vessel and how they seen who I was being, I would get to step into their shoes and look back at me and see why they would see what they seen. And start to see, is this something that I could change in me to help in the physical reality before I move forward into the truth of who I be, in consciousness which is not seen but brings everything to what can be seen in a physical reality. And so that time passed by and I moved forward into consciousness of the body. And I dive in and out of who I be, from what you see to what you can't see. And within that, I don't look for death anymore. I look forward to it. I look to enjoy each and every day of my life that comes to me now, but I don't fear death. I see it as going back to my truth in who I be. That this physical life is only an experience, so I could see it in a physical reality. But through my life, I found myself in consciousness, nothing but consciousness, not in the body, not in separation, not in anything that you can see, just consciousness in the stillness of what it is. And in that, I could see how all could be created, how all is created, how all came about from the light that you see within who you be. Which brought you into this physical reality. But you forgot as you passed through the gates into the vessel that you be. As you got attached to the physical in what you see. Not just what you see with your eyes, but what you see and how you feel and who you be. As you became consciously aware of being in the womb and being fed and looked after and nourished and cared for and protected by your mother, you became a being that could sense and see how another would be, how a mother would be. And from that mother you would come to gain them set of skills to look after oneself and protect oneself. But as that soul was growing within that protection, learning from another, a mother, you would become that learning, that being that you once seen in how you were being from how your mother been to you. So you would create that in who you are in your being. And so when you came to the life to see physically, your soul was still there with your consciousness being. And so even though you could sense like a physical being, you couldn't see like a physical being. You could only see what conscious could see. And consciousness had to turn everything that you felt in a way of seeing to create what you would see as a being in separation from what you be. And so then you would start to see physical things in how you would see with your physical reality from how you seen and how you felt and who you were being in that physical being. Yet always separated from your separating from your consciousness, drifting away from it, from the true being of who you are. And in that light that creates all that you see is who you be. The light, the creator of consciousness, collapsing everything that you see into shape so it could be in your reality as the physical being you would see in who you be. And so we come to this phase of life that we go through running from death, but running towards it in fear, never truly happy in who we be, as we see ourselves separated from all that we see. While if we look back where we came from and who we be, we would start to see we're going back as we move forward into who we were or who we be in our reality of what we don't see that creates what we see. And so death becomes celebration to our physical being in what other vessels got to see, in how consciousness could be in who they be, in their own vessel, yet in another vessel, in space and time of another dimension from what they see and who they be. And so we see ourselves in that separation in this physical reality until we turn into who we be and see that consciousness that creates all that we see. Not fearing death, but seeing it as something that will be. Seeing it as something that will set us free from one reality to another as we advance forward in who we be learning who we are in the soul that the vessel carries but does not see. And until that vessel can learn to see the soul and who we be, that consciousness that creates all to be seen, we will keep rehearsing into a vessel until we can see living life and dying and living again, until we can be that soul and vessel entwined into body, into a body that can see the unseen in the seen, which is seen to be reality. And until that time, we will keep moving and shifting and changing in the scene of different spaces, different vessels, different ways, improving in who we are in our memory of consciousness, of who we've been and who we be, until we get to the truth of what creates all that we see, in the true creator of consciousness that is with you and me in everything that we see. This happy chapter, love and peace.